What's going on, guys? So we're here at Miami Beach Recording Studios. This is my second home here. I figured since most of our RASP students here in 103 are just learning about mic placement and mic technique right now, and our 105 students over in mixing and mastering have just mixed their live drums from their recording sessions in the last semester, I figured I'll take you guys through a brief drum mic setup that I'm doing right now for Hadee. So that's Hadee. So here on the kick drum, I have a Sennheiser E602 on the inside kick. I have a Neumann U87 here on the outside. I think this mic is really underrated for outside kick drum. It's mostly used on vocals, but for outside kick drum, it gives you a really good punch with that 5K boost. I like it a lot for that, actually more than I do for vocals. Over here on the snare, also keep in mind that when you do this double mic technique, one of the microphones should be face flipped, so I'll show you that when we get into the control room. Over here on the snare top, I have this Telefunken microphone that comes in a kit. Telefunken makes an amazing drum mic kit, so I'm using them sporadically around the drums. So I have one here on the top snare, pointed center. At the bottom of the snare, I have a Bayer Dynamic M201. It's almost like a condenser version of an SM57. It sounds amazing. Over here on the rack and floor toms, I have two more of these Telefunken microphones. It's a different model, but it comes in the same kit. On the hi-hat, I have a Shure SM81. On the ride, I have a Microtech Geffel pointed right at the bell. Right here, because that's mainly what I want is when he's riding this part right here. On my overheads, I have the Telefunken microphones that come in the kit as well, the small diaphragm condensers. If you notice, they're not even to each other, because the goal is not for your overheads to be even to each other, it's for them to be even to the snare, equal distance to the snare. So on the snare, I also face flipped one of them. Mostly you get people face flipping the bottom. I actually face flip the top. Sometimes I find that I get a better phase cohesion with my overheads when I face flip the top microphone on the snare. But yes, that's why the microphones look a little bit off. And then if we turn around on the other side of the room, I have a pair of AKG C414s as my room mics. Both of them are in omnidirectional. These are the XL2 versions. When you see the gold face, that's an XL2. That means it has a CK12 capsule. I know you guys have been using the CV12 tube microphone. This has the same style capsule. It doesn't have the tube, obviously, but it has the CK12 capsule, which is a little bit brighter than the XLS's, which is what I believe we have on campus. Over here, I didn't use this on the drums, but we're about to use this on the vocals. This is an Upton 251. It's another tube microphone, CK12 style capsule. This thing just sounds beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I just plugged it in and I'm letting the tube warm up. And in a second, we're gonna go into the control room. But first, here in this isolation booth, you saw that we were tracking bass and guitar in the control room. So in this isolation booth, we have Tristan's amazing 5150. With an SM57 on it, plain and simple. These sound amazing on everything. If you can only have one mic, it's gonna be this one. It's a little bit off axis because the first one that we were tracking was a little bit darker. We wanted a little bit of a darker tone. Not too dark, but I have it slightly off axis. And then we can get into the control room and I'll show you the preamp and patching setup, how I face flipped. We did also capture a DI of the guitar, so we got a DI and we got the amp as well. So another thing to keep in mind is that personally I love to get the attack of my skins of my drums on my direct mics. So I made sure that, if you notice, all of my direct mics are pointed more towards the center of the drum skin. So rather than being pointed down towards the rim or the edge, they're pointed a little bit more towards the center to capture that attack and get more of that. So now coming here into the control room, our tie lines over here in the live room, just like in the studio over Studio A, our tie lines are normaled. However, the first 8 channels are normaled here to this Grace preamp. It's beautiful and it's very clean, but that's not the sound I was looking for. You guys have tried the 512s that we have sitting in the 500 series rack in the center of the SSL console. Well, here I have the warm audio versions. These are very, very similar to those 512s, so this is what I'm running on all my close mics. So I have my kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, rack tom, floor tom, hi-hat, and ride. Now, we also got to keep in mind that we do have condenser microphones in this setup. So the U87 has phantom power as well as a polarity switch because it's the second microphone on my kick drum. I have on my snare top microphone, all I have is my pad and my polarity switch. On the bottom mic, since it's the Beyerdynamic M201, I do have phantom power on, that plus 48V. And then we see it again on the hi-hat and on the ride. Moving over to the overheads and the room mics. On my overheads and rooms, I'm using these amazing Rupert Neve 511s. These also have high-pass filters on, so set at around 100 hertz for each. And then they also have this really cool feature down here, which is silk. This is a silk transformer that is known from Rupert Neve. It's something that they have in a few of their units, including these 511s, which give me a really good amount of high-end harmonics. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful high-end. It makes them sound pretty bright, but without it being harsh, so they sound incredible. And because of the fact that I'm running pre's outside of what's being normal, pretty much all of my channels are patched. On my vocals, which we're going to track now, I'm running that Upton 251 into this Vingtech 1073, which is very similar. It's a clone of a Neve 1073. You guys have tried it over in the 500 series rack in the center of the console. For bass and guitar, bass was just straight DI right into this Avalon AD2022. It's a 2 preamp. We have one very similar in the studio as well. So bass was just DI. He had his fuzz pedal that he turned on and off throughout the performance. And then for guitar, we saw that we have an SM57 over on the EVH 5150. The microphone is going into this Warm 1073. I'm not doing anything on the EQ except for a high-pass filter over at 60 hertz. I use 60 because the next option, these are in stepped increments, so the next option would be 160, and I didn't want to go that high in the recording, so I left it at 60 hertz. On the DI, I have this DI box here from Radio. So the signal is coming from his guitar, and then there is a through signal that's going into his pedal board, then into the amplifier, which is being mic'd, and then there's an XLR here that just gives me the straight DI signal right into the Warm. I know there's a bit of a mess of cables here, but it's the only way to do it. There's no way around it. So we're gonna get to tracking vocals. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. I'm either in your classroom with you or in the next classroom over. So hope you found this information useful.